Ben Goresky.
Matt Cooke. Let's do this, man.
Yeah, excited to sit down and have a chat with you today. Where to begin? I think the place to start is kind of like a very broad question is, how did you end up here? Like, how did you end up leading this men's organization known as the Arka Brotherhood?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So take us as far back as you want.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good question. I'll do some little touch points through my life and try to stitch things together in a way that makes sense as to how I ended up here. I will start with, I went to rehab when I was 15, and that was a significant turning point in my life. There's definitely some backstory to how I ended up in rehab and why I was in such a mess in my life at 15 years old that I needed to go to rehab. But suffice it to say, I was there. And this was like a residential treatment center, and for teens particularly. And there was guys in there and there was gals in there, and we would have like full group therapy, but then there was also guys group and girls group where we'd split off. And this was like, this treatment center was pretty intense. There was like 17 group therapy sessions per week, and it was a 6-day week, and you get 1 day off to just, relax and not be doing therapy all day. And the most powerful groups that we had were the ones where it was just the guys, and we would dig into our shame. We dig into sex stuff. We dig into stuff around our dads. And yeah, there was a lot of power in those circles, the way the men facilitated them, the way the guys were more willing to be vulnerable and reveal their pain, because there was no, female witnesses around. And so I got to know the young men's container in that context. And when I graduated that rehab and went back and finished high school, I went and worked there as a peer counselor and learned how to run group and learned how to run guys group. So there I was, 19, 20 years old, running these circles for young guys, talking about shame, talking about sex, talking about our dads. And, usually when dads came up, by the end of that circle, no dry eyes in the circle. We'd all be standing in line waiting to get our roast beef or whatever for dinner. And we all have tears all over our shirts and stuff, and people would be like, "You guys talk about dads?" Like, everybody knew what the subject matter was, based on how wet our clothes were. Wow. How much Kleenex had been used. So I worked there for 3 years. I went and did a degree in counseling, and all the while I was going to AA and stayed sober. And what I gravitated towards in AA was these guys only groups, men's groups. And there was a level of, same thing, honesty, depth, realness, not messing around. However, deep belly laughs as well that came in those groups that just felt nourishing for me. And I did that for about 15 years. I attended AA and went to guys groups, and I moved cities a few times and kept going. But eventually, when I was about 30 years old, I stopped going to AA. I felt my own call to do other things and move towards other types of healing work. And so I did that. And that created actually a bit of a void in my life. A void that, actually goes all the way back to childhood, around having brothers and not experiencing brotherhood as a child. And so there I am in my early 30s with this void, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty healthy in my life. Like, I'm at my best that I've ever been. I've moved here to Vancouver, and there's so much personal growth here. There's so much health, good food, lots of yoga, great gyms, like moving from Calgary, the lifestyle here was definitely more healthy for me. And I felt like the people were as well. And fast forward to, I end up in a room with Phil Mistelberger and his men. He started this men's group 9 months earlier or so.
How did you end up in that room, or why did you end up in that room? What was the connection?
I started dating a woman who was seeing Phil as a therapist, transpersonal therapist. And she recommended I come and meet him, and I met him, and he was like, you seem like an interesting guy, interesting background. Like I'm about to start a school called Conscious Relationship Trainings. You should come check out my open house for that. And by the way, I'm also starting a brotherhood. I've just started that. And the next time there's an open house, if you want to come, you can come check it out. And I liked Phil's vibe. He felt like a humble elder wizard, guy who I definitely could learn something from and spend some time with. And so that's how I ended up at the open house. And I sat in the circle with these guys, and I felt that old familiar feeling like, oh yeah, we're here for a reason. We're not messing around. These guys are like mobilizing their consciousness and their intention to like focus on each other and like share openly and also try to help each other. And it's a unique and powerful container that felt familiar to me. So I had a feeling I was like really enjoying like playing around in my life and traveling a lot, going to music festivals all summer and stuff like that. And I was like, oof, I don't know if I'm ready to like commit to this, because the commitment level was pretty high. So I actually held off for about 4 or 5 months. And then Nick Solacek ran an open house for a squad he was starting. Yeah. And in the meantime, Phil's group was full. Like
right after you couldn't even get in if you wanted.
Right after that open house, it was like full. So I was like, okay, well, that's great. I'll just wait a bit. And then another open house happens. Phil decides he's going to split his groups, and I go to another one of these open houses, and it had even more energy. There was like 30 guys there, and everybody was just kind of like excited to be
something
in
new,
this space. Yeah. There's like electricity going on for sure between all of us. And so I joined that group. So that was about 10 years ago, 2015, 2016.
So do you think it's fair to say that there wasn't necessarily a reason you decided to join? It was more like a feeling, maybe a nudge from your new partner at the time?
A nudge, definitely like a calling to something new, like a next level. I was definitely drawn back into brotherhood because I was missing that. I had also like basically lost a bunch of friends from back in Calgary because of the turn that I decided to make away from 12-step programs. And I had opened up my world to psychedelics as an option. And in that world, you're relapsed if you do that. And so there was kind of something missing for me. And I actually needed a new level of friendship from men who weren't in that circle. So I think I was longing for that as well. And I had started making some of those friends. Steve Parr was one of those guys. He was like my first solid male friend in Vancouver that I was just like, oh, I'm friends with this guy for life. He's got my back. I've got his. So I was longing for that. And by the time I went to that second open house, I was pretty deep into relationship with Shalina. And I was like, it was clear to me that this woman is strong. She has, she's got a lot of things. She's like powerful.
Gonna demand a lot of you.
She's gonna demand a lot of me. She's not gonna let me settle.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a badass woman, and I need help. Like, I need more power to hold this relationship the way I know I can, but I can't right now. I need help. I need to level up. And I had set on my goals list that first year that I met her to figure out what masculinity was, figure out what my masculinity is
Mm-hmm.
and grow it. Because I couldn't really answer that. And I'm still figuring that out. But she saw that and she bought me David Data's book, The Way of the Superior Man.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, I've read this book. You should read it.
Yep.
And when I read that book, knowing that she had read that, and just, I think there's a lot of stuff in there that can be misinterpreted. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that women could be threatened by. But I saw in her, just by the fact that she gave me that book, I was like, this is a woman who can understand teachings and use them for the right purpose. And just understand what the teacher's trying to say, you know? So I appreciated that about her. So she was like, she had my back on the men's work thing. And so that's what I said to those guys in the beginning at that first open house. I was like, I'm longing for brotherhood. I used to have this with 12 steps. I'm looking for something new, and I need help with my relationship. Like, I don't know that you guys are going to solve any relationship problems for me, but like, I think I need an energy from you men that I have a sense you can provide.
So your woman was arguably the reason you joined. I'm curious how being in men's work and in the Arka Brotherhood has shifted, changed, supported your relationship with Shalina. And in what ways?
Yeah, the short answer is it's been really useful, and that I'm quite confident that I would not be married to her today if it wasn't for my men's group. The longer answer is, there's a lot of lessons I've learned along the way, but one of the first lessons I learned was we had this exercise that we did where you're sort of challenged to take yourself seriously in front of some other guys. And I'm like 30 years old at this point. And I've always had this side of myself that kind of didn't like that thing about taking yourself seriously. Like, shut up. Like I have like kind of this jester comedian, like people who take life too seriously are losers. Like you've lost what really matters. But there's also like a shadow to that, which is like avoidance of responsibility, avoidance of like really stepping into my power and like owning something that's mine, claiming like, I want this. That part of me that doesn't take myself seriously would be like, yeah, I kind of want that, but like, whatever, I just
want to have fun. And
yeah. And so I did have that side of me that I was still carrying. And I faced that in those early days with the group through that exercise and through what the men were reflecting back to me. And, basically through guys saying like, hey, this part of you, like the shadow is you're not fully in on anything in your life. You're not standing up 100% for who you are and what you want. You're just kind of in, So
it's a bit of a challenge to be fully in the relationship. That's what I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cause my previous few relationships before that, I was like, kind of like, it was wishy-washy. I wasn't totally clear on what the commitment was. I wasn't able to like draw clear boundaries with women if I didn't want to be in a sexual relationship with them. If I wanted to just be friends, I wouldn't be super clear about that. And so then sometimes I would have sex with them. Sometimes I wouldn't. Like we'd be in these like weird relationships that didn't have a definition.
Ambiguity.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, that's freedom. Like a part of me was like, well, that's true freedom. And like, why draw lines around things? But like, that was all, looking back, like that was just kind of an immature side of myself that wasn't just getting clear on what I wanted and then moving towards that in an obvious way. And that is something that I saw in Arka early on, in the accountability practices and just the way that we were kind of all supporting each other in the circle, was that this is a quality that is needed and is beneficial in the world. It kind of, acknowledge what you truly want and then take meaningful steps towards that thing. Quit messing around, and get out of your own way. There's so many ways that men get in their own way.
Can you think of any low points or particularly challenging points in your relationship that you were able to lean on a men's group and get advice or in some way supported you through?
Mm-hmm. Two things come to mind there. Well, three things. One, just sharing in the group that I'm struggling in a certain way and having men reflect that they struggle in that way too, or they see me and, they honor the difficulty of that position is like definitely relaxing and like drops some of that angsty energy.
Yeah, just the weight of what's going on.
Conflict, yeah. I've had guys in my squad, I've had other captains that I've called when stuff's hard in relationship. And that's a life changer, game changer, being able to call certain guys and just vent and then like hear what they're saying to me and be open to challenge or seeing something different or whatever it may be, or just whatever energetic support they're bringing through the phone. That's been really helpful. And there have also been a bunch of times where I'm sitting with my partner and she's bringing what is landing as criticism. Mm-hmm. She might not even think she's bringing criticism, but for me, it feels that way because I've got that wound around criticism.
A lot of men do.
A lot of men
I
probably
certainly have that one as well.
Yeah. So she's just telling me how she's feeling about how I'm showing up.
Yeah.
And in my head, she's criticizing me as a man. She's criticizing me as a partner. She's telling me in subtle ways that I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's hard to stay in listening and curiosity
yes.
and hearing her when that's what I'm feeling and is going on in my head.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to hold space for her. You don't want to hear when you're feeling like you're taking the brunt of the criticism. You're like, well, I'm doing all this stuff for you and you're criticizing me.
Yeah, you feel unseen or like, all this stuff that comes up for guys. And what I've learned is that what I need to do in those moments is learn to self-regulate, learn to acknowledge that those are the things that are coming up, that's not necessarily what's she's saying right now, that I can hold me in this moment where I'm feeling a little bit insecure, that this goes back to like my mother wound and even sometimes stuff with my brother or my dad. And I need to figure out how to hear her and repeat back to her what she's sharing with me and be curious about her experience and what she's really trying to get to. Because sometimes she's just trying to process what's going on for her and her feelings and her unique experience that she's having with me. Because I am not perfect. And I have my hard edges and I can be arrogant or not hear her properly or just be sharp or short with her, like all these things. So I do need to be open to hearing that stuff. So there have been many times where she's sharing with me and that feeling starting to occur for me. And then I feel the guys in my squad standing behind me, hands on my back, or just like energetically there and like strong, flat face, just like, hey, we're here for you, dude. Mm-hmm. We're here with you. And all of a sudden I feel strong, secure. I don't feel like lashing out. I don't feel like I need to defend myself right now. Because like there's a thing that happens once you establish in a squad where you really have like shared with them and they've reflected back to you and they've told you the positive qualities they see in you. They've seen your shadow and they've seen your deficiencies and they still love you and they still support you and they're cheering you on. That you're like, okay, these guys have got my back. And that goes a long way in stressful moments like that. When I feel like my partner doesn't have my back, I'm not saying she doesn't in that moment, but it feels that way. I feel criticized, all that. I know they've got my back. And so my power grows, my capacity grows. So it's been huge for me.
I want to take us back to kind of where you started. You mentioned you were in rehab as a teenager. Didn't mention why. And what else was going on for you in your life as a young man that kind of led you to that point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up with two older brothers. One is 3 years older than me, and one is 10 years older than me. The one who's 10 years older left the home when I was 6. He was 16. He was having his own mental crises, rebelling against my parents. And he was actually a child from my mom's first marriage. So he left Calgary to go live with his dad, and his dad was going to take care of him. So I didn't have a lot of experience with him in my younger years that I remember, you know. I don't really remember past 6. And, but I've had a much closer and more conflicted relationship with the brother who's 3 years older than me. And I think my brother had a typical experience of being a 3-year-old and having a new kid come into the house, which I think you've experienced this, where all of a sudden your relationship to your mom changes big time because there is a new higher priority in the house than you. And my brother was he's a highly sensitive person. And our home was not a home that knew how to deal with a highly sensitive person. Mm-hmm. My parents were not equipped for that based on the homes they grew up in. And this was the 80s. There wasn't as much literature out there as there is now. And so basically what happened was my brother was jealous of me for getting more energy from my mom, and he would lash out in anger, and he would try to get the energy, and he would try to suppress me, push me down, or take the attention back from my parents. So there was lashing out, there was emotional bullying, there was occasional physical stuff. The physical stuff doesn't really stick out in my memory. It wasn't like we had crazy fist fights or anything like that. My brother's not much of a physical fighter, but my feeling in my home was of feeling kind of like unsafe a lot of the time, feeling lonely because my mom didn't really know how to teach me how to have emotions. And she spent a lot of time either trying to protect me from my brother or trying to like kind of fix my brother because he was acting out. And there was a lot of attention actually put on him because he was very loud, very problematic. We sent him to special schools, seeing psychiatrists, seeing psychologists. In his teen years, he ended up in group homes. He ended up in jail. He became a ward of the government at age 15 or 16 because my parents were just like, we don't know
what to do.
Like, please just take him out of our house and put him somewhere else because he just attacks us when we're home. So I in my younger years, like 7, 8, 9, 10, family vacations were a total mess. Going to visit brother in juvie jail, and having all of these hurt feelings, trauma, not secure attachment, pain, and not knowing what to do with it. Dad was a great contributor at work. He was an anesthetist in Calgary and was like the head anesthetist at the Children's Hospital. And he worked a lot. He was away early in the morning before we woke up, and he'd come home right at dinner time. And there wasn't. My dad didn't have this, like, he didn't have the presence that I really needed in terms of like stepping in and like really putting his hands on me and my brother. And I don't mean like hitting me and my brother. I mean like really involving himself in teaching us how to be men. We didn't really get that from him. And I know now why that is. I know my dad's wounds and how his dad was way too much hands-on. And that's my dad's wounding. And so, he was doing great by not being overly hands-on with us. So I basically arrive in my teen years, lost, lonely, looking to soothe my pain, looking for soothing for sure. Like, I was just talking with my mom about this today, that like I was sucking my thumb until grade 1 as my soothing mechanism. And my parents had to they put hot sauce on my hands, on my thumb, to try to stop me from sticking my thumb in my mouth. And I would slowly lick it off throughout the night until I could suck the thumb. But I was growing buck teeth. So my teeth, my teeth were coming in just pointing forwards because I had my thumb in my mouth so much. So that just speaks to like how much soothing I was trying to do for myself at that age. And so by the time I get to my teen years, I'm just a hurting dude, and I have no meaningful adult who I trust to like show me how to deal with my hurt or guide me. And so then when I found drugs and alcohol, I was just like, I'm all in, baby. And the rest is history. That's how I ended up in rehab.
So then from that point on, I mean, you said you were in AA for another, 15 years?
Yeah. From once I got out of rehab until about 30, 29.
Was addiction still something you struggled after that point, after kind of going through rehab the first time? Or was it more the familiar, comfortable place that you could get support? Why do you think you stayed in AA so long?
Yeah. Okay. There's two answers to that question. One, I did struggle after rehab. I struggled in high school, finishing high school. Emotionally, I still had lots of learning to do about how to, be a human, be an adult. And, I got suspended from high school for what did I do? I got kicked out of a class, and the principal had me on thin ice. And so then he called me into his office when my mom was there, and he was like, "Hey, I'm suspending you because you got kicked out of this class." And I didn't think I didn't think I should have been kicked out. I was being a little bit foolish, but like she really pulled a pin quickly with me. I think I triggered something in her. I flipped out on him, and in front of my mom, he gave me a 5-day suspension. I did manage to, that was a low point for me in my early recovery, where emotionally I was just kind of like, I was lashing out. And I did finish high school. I did go end up working at that rehab center. And when I was working there, I also hit another low point where I was in a relationship that was stirring up all kinds of probably my stuff from home, my mother wound, stuff from childhood. It was a really kind of hot relationship that was like just spicy. We'd have these crazy fights, and I wasn't going to that many AA meetings and getting my soul fed. And I started 3 fights in 1 week. I was about 20 years old at this time, maybe 21. I think on my 21st birthday, that's when I was like, hit a new low. I started 2 fights. One of them was at work, and my boss at the rehab center pulled me apart from one of my supervisors, and we were like about to slug it out, throwing each other around the office. And then I cut some guys off on the road because they like were making some gestures to my girlfriend while we were driving, and guys were really ramped up at this time because the Calgary Flames were in the playoffs. And so people were like always rushing downtown and going to this like Red Mile thing where everybody was flooding 17th Ave. But guys were going down there and brawling as well. And so these dudes were on their way to go brawl or like go find some trouble. And they saw me and my girlfriend in our car, and they made some gestures to her, and I went and cut them off. And they were these big dudes in an SUV, and they got out and came over to our car, and we drove away. And then we thought we lost him. And then they found us, and they started tailing us. And I called a buddy, and I ended up in front of at this party that he's at. I'm like, bring everybody in the party outside. Like, this is going to get crazy. And I pull up outside and he's standing out there with his girlfriend and her little sister. And they're like eating a popsicle. And these dudes pull up behind us, jump out, and they jump my buddy. And I was like, okay, well, I got to get out of the car now. So I get out and then they just pummel me. And I really, truly, I wasn't much of a fighter. I basically got one punch by this guy, knocked out, and exploded my nose. So I got, I say I got pummeled, but I think I got one solid hit and I was down. So I spent my 21st birthday with a totally smashed up face. Mm-hmm. And so that was me like not knowing fully how to control my anger, not knowing where my anger comes from and why so much of my anger was being triggered as a result of this relationship that I was in, So there was also, I'll share one more piece about how I struggled. Also in that relationship, somewhere in there, I was with her for a year and a half. I got pretty addicted to video games and was going to these internet cafes and playing role-playing games and into all hours of the night. And like my partner had an abandonment wound and I was kind of, I was just like slowly abandoning her more and more for this video game. She dumped me at one point. And my response was to go and play video games all night. That was like how I soothed myself, So I got through that. I quit that. We got back together. But just another point that like, yeah, I struggled with that addiction. I was also smoking cigarettes. And there wasn't any other major addiction relapse that occurred, but I definitely struggled in some of my like addictive behaviors like video games and smoking, but I was struggling emotionally. And so I would go to 12-step programs to like get some clarity on that, get some support from these older men and other men in circles and get right with myself, So it was a very useful place for me to go for that 15 years to because there's so much growing up you got to do. Like when you're 15, when you're 15 years old, normally you've got lots of growing up to do. When you're a 15-year-old addict and you're in recovery and trying to move through the world as a addict in recovery, not only do you have to face a world where there's like, you become legal to drink at 18 and you're 3 years sober and all of the substances and stuff that are out there and are very normal for people in college and high school. But you're also facing the fact that like, there were wounds that created your addiction that you don't resolve in 1 year, So I was carrying those things too around and learning how to live with them.
There's a lot of people who struggle with addiction and they don't make it through the other side. They don't, or haven't, I shouldn't say don't, they haven't been able to shake it. So I guess the question I want to ask is like, what do you think was pivotal for you to feel like you could overcome any addictions that you had? Or in like the things you've witnessed in other men too, who were able to overcome their addictions. Mm-hmm. What is that secret sauce? What are the key ingredients that can help someone get to the other side?
Mm-hmm. I think there's something that needs to happen before recovery can occur. And then there's a couple things that you need to successfully recover. The main thing that needs to happen in order for recovery to become possible is it needs to become clear enough to you. The pain needs to become enough that you know that you need to mobilize every ounce of willpower you have left to try and recover from this thing. And that's essentially what happens when you hit bottom, right? Things get bad enough that you're like, wow, either I kill myself or this is going to kill me, or
I want to choose something else.
I have figure out how to get sober, because there's some people in this world who have done that.
Yeah.
You know? And for me, that process kind of happened in rehab. I went in being like, I don't have a problem. And this is very common in this rehab. You know, a lot of people don't get to 17 years old or whatever and be like, I'm an addict, I need help.
No, they're put there, or they're sent there, or they're recommended to go there.
Yeah. And so I spent 6 months on this first step where they were like trying to help me see how out of control I was, how lost I was. Cause I kind of went in just like pretending, wearing the mask, being like, I'm not lost, I'm not out of control. Like, so yeah, I think eventually what happened to me was, through doing the sharing in group therapy, I gradually was able to be like, okay, here's the truth of the matter. I am totally lost and don't know what I'm doing. I am addicted to escape. Anything that will take me out of my present experience and alter me, I'm addicted to that, and I can't stop, and it makes my life unmanageable. I am so lonely, so hurting, and I'm actually craving being seen for who I am and loved for who I am. And I need help. You know, I can't do this on my own. I need help. I'm going to take the help, is like step 1, 2, and 3 in the 12-step programs. And so I did that in treatment. And I think anybody who recovers needs to go through that process. It's not necessarily a process of like hitting bottom because you ended up on the street, because you ended up in the hospital and almost died. It's a mental thing where you have had enough.
A lot of what you just described was humility and honesty with yourself.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd ask people who struggle to do that or aren't able to, how do you get someone to that point?
You get beat down by life and other people can help you see, you know, like I didn't see when I went into rehab, but then I started talking to all these other kids in there and I started listening to their stories. And I was like, okay, you told that story and it was you and your body, you were doing all of that stuff, but I can relate to you. I can relate to your pain. I can even understand why you did that. I'd probably do that if I was in your shoes. And so you start to get like, there was this positive peer influence in rehab that happens in our groups in Arka that is beneficial. You know, every person on this earth doesn't have to go through every wrong turn available in order to learn what the right turns are. We learn from each other, you know? And so they were able to help me see how lost and hurting and lonely and addicted I was. So you got to see your addiction clearly if you ever want to recover. And then when you're ready to recover, I think the main things people need are a structure. You need something to follow. Like you need rules, a guide for living, you know? And so for me, that was when I was in rehab, it was the rehab program. And when I got out, I followed the AA program. Go to a certain amount of meetings per week, go to this consistent meetings, check in with your sponsor this much.
And they both follow 12 steps. So you're following the steps.
And then follow the steps. Yeah. Like do the steps in your life, which there's some really good stuff in there in the 12 steps. There's lots of other issues as well, which I'm aware of, but there's some really good stuff in the 12 steps. So structure is, and this is like statistically significant. Like I've seen studies on this, like the two things that really move the needle in the 12-step program are the program and the fellowship, which is the people going to the meetings. And some people just do one or the other. Some people don't even do the steps. They just go to meetings. The people and the community and like the sense of holding each other is really powerful. And so anybody who wants to recover, that's what I tell them. Like, listen, dude, you need a program that you can kind of get behind. And then if you can kind of get behind it, you need to get behind it 100%. You know, like just get on board fully and don't deviate. And you need other people to help you hold yourself accountable, help you process shit as it's coming up in your life. which is part of the work that I do. So yeah, I think that those are the crucial ingredients.
Yeah. You are the co-director with me of the Arka Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't quite get all the way to that point in your journey in men's work.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you've joined a group with Nick Solchek, and from there, what shifts in you, in your life, or even in your realization that you were ready to step into a role? Like, how'd you end up in this role, and why'd you choose to be in this role?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely happened slowly and gradually. In the beginning, like, this was Phil Misselberger's Brotherhood. It was called Samurai Brotherhood, and I was in Nick Solchek's squad, Blackfish. We had 4 squads at the time. And I started meeting with these guys every week. I'm loving it. The other guys are loving it. We're setting goals. We're doing processes. We're challenging ourselves. We're building relationships with each other. And it's just like the best part of my week. And then every once in a while, we do these like weekend warrior retreats with Phil. The photo behind you right now is a photo of one that I assisted Phil at last year. And it's me taking the guys through some stretches out on the dock. And we were just like on fire for this stuff. And as I built my confidence in the squad, and as the Brotherhood started to grow, we needed new captains. And some of the guys from our squad left and went and ran groups. You know, you joined Elephant, which was started by Jordan Gray. Jordan Gray was in my squad in Blackfish. And when he left, he started Elephant. And I was like, some of my core dudes that I was tightest with started leaving to go run squads. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's probably my destiny here, you know? And we were talking and they were like, you're for sure, you got to run a squad, you know? And so, and we were doing these open houses here in Vancouver where we would just fill a room with like 80 or 90 guys. And half the guys in the room were in the Brotherhood and just were like there because Phil was there to talk and because we're there to share. All the captains in the Brotherhood would come. Sometimes there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 captains. And, you know, guys would all go up to the front. All the captains would go up to the front and talk about what the Brotherhood's done for them. And the energy was just like, whoa, on fire. And then all the non-members in the room would sign up. We just basically sign up everybody who was there. And so it's growing. And I start a squad called Owl. And that was a good challenge for me. I'd actually run a lot of groups in my life, you know, in my counseling business. And but running a men's group under the Arka or the Samurai Brotherhood sort of way of doing things is, it's definitely confronting. It's confronting. And I learned a lot in that first 6 months and sort of just got my feet wet and started to really relax into leadership. Yet we kind of lost half of our squad in that first 6 months. Guys who came, who thought they wanted to do the work, kind of decided they didn't want to and left. And we didn't have a great pipeline at that time, by the way, to like fill more men in when guys leave. Yeah. Whereas now we have a website that's like bringing some guys in and there's open houses happening in different places all the time. So
the energy was flat.
When your group shrinks,
when you lose half the people.
Yeah. Either like when your group shrunk at that time, either you go get guys now or you wait for another open house. So my group shrinks to 6 and the group that I had left, Nick's group, also shrunk to a lower number. And we ended up meeting and talking about forming a group together, coming back together and forming a new squad. So we put Blackfish and Owl to bed after I had been off on my own for about 6 months, and we formed Tiger Squad. And it was cool. I got to run group with my old captain, Nick, and sit beside him. And we got, you know, a new lieutenant, Greg, and eventually Joel. And that was like
Peak.
golden days for me of being in the Brotherhood was like running our squad and like learning, expanding our capacity, trying new stuff with our guys, like trying to figure out what's going on with each man and like how can we support him while also like not telling him what to do or like pushing our agenda, you know, like there's a balance, you know, in terms of like allowing a guy to have his process, you know. But Nick and I were just like so into this work and like,
yeah, it was so new and so fresh. And there's also like a trajectory that each man goes through, but also each group of men go through when they're doing men's work for the first time. So I'm sure that was exciting.
Yeah, it was an exciting time. And like Nick and I were meeting every week or two, having saunas, steams, and just like processing what was going on for us in our own leadership journey, and just getting better and better and getting closer and closer, him and I. And so fast forward a few years later, right before COVID happens, I've just got married and the Brotherhood has grown to, I don't know, maybe we had 20 squads at that time, maybe 15, but it was really starting to grow. And Misselberger was like, whoa, this was not part of my plan. I just started this group in my apartment and it became clear that these guys needed to run their own groups. And here we are. Like, I guess it's
got a life of its own.
He had started it a couple times before that and just run it as a single group in the late 90s and then in the 2000s. And when he had to leave to go do work elsewhere, he went and worked in Europe for a bit. He would just shut the group down. And it was sad, but like, that's how it was. It was just sort of over. And so this latest iteration just kind of exploded on him, and in a good way. And so he starts talking with some of the leaders, and Nick Solacek had kind of been one of his right-hand men. He sort of had Nick and Leo as his two guys that he leaned on a lot for help. And he ends up asking one at a time. First it was Nick, then it was Steve Parr, and then eventually me, to step up into some kind of an executive role where we create more organizational structure. We already had division commanders, a few of them, who are the guys supervising captains and making sure that supervision is not a good word, but I use that from like a therapy standpoint. Like every therapist has kind of a supervisor who's like helping them with their cases and making sure that they're supported.
Supporting.
It's support. Yeah. So we had these like division commanders, and he was like, and we were actually division commanders, all of us, by that point. And he was like, we need another tier here so that I'm not holding all of this. Like it's too much. And so we came in and we like really created the structure that we have today, where, new website, members system, like systems, money system, taxes, all this stuff, just like made everything legit and ready to grow. Yeah. So that was in 2018, 2019. And it, lots has happened since then. We changed our name to Arka Talks. That was our decision, myself,
Arka
Steve.
Brotherhood.
What did I say? I said Arka Talks. Yeah. Arka Talks is the most recent iteration. We changed our name to Arka Brotherhood around that time, and that we did a whole rebranding process with a bunch of captains to come up with the right name, and so the short ending is eventually Steve moved on and Nick moved on, and now it's just you and me running this thing. So it's been an awesome journey, man. And I didn't really like, I never thought that Phil was going to do that. I never aspired to be in this position, but it felt like the right thing to do. I took on the Brotherhood's mission like very much as my mission early on, even though I started Evolving Man and the Evolving Man podcast and my, men's groups that I run for Evolving Man. Like I never really felt like it made sense for me to start an Evolving Man Brotherhood on its own, because this thing is so good. It works so well. I respect this teacher so much. there was just never really in my heart and mind an opening to compete or do something alongside. I really just wanted to have his back in this mission because I just love it
and believe in it.
Yeah. So here we are, 10 years in.
So that's wow, 10 years.
Yeah. Since that beginning in Phil's living room.
Oh, that's wild. In those 10 years, is there one or two kind of specific memories or turning points from an experience while sitting in a squad that really sit with you and maybe had a large impact or shift within you that still sit with you today? Whether it's your share or maybe another man's share.
There's a lot of smaller moments, but there's one thing that comes to mind when you ask that question, and I just sort of let it come up in me, and I'll share it. So when I was running Tiger, and I'm gonna do my best to keep this as confidential as possible in terms of like leaving details out. Specific details on specific people. But I was running Tiger, and we had a guy in the squad who just, what's the best way to say it, is like, was just really wrestling with some of his pain, his inner demons, the dialogue of his stepfather, which was not a positive dialogue in his mind, and his own sense of worth in the world. And we were supporting him. We were, doing the work in squad meetings. And I don't want anybody to think that like a guy comes to men's group, he does a dad share, and he does a little bit of work with the men, and his wounds are healed and he's good now. Guys come in and they sometimes descend into, a year or two of deep, very difficult work.
Stirs a lot up.
Dark night of the soul for some guys. It stirs a lot up. Exactly. So this guy is going through a hard thing, and we gave him a little energy in the meeting, and then we wrap up, and he jets pretty early, and something about how he exited the meeting didn't quite feel right to me. And I was like, where is this guy? Where'd he go?
Kind of like a bit of an alarm bell. It's like, oh, something's going on with him.
Yeah, like usually he was hanging around and we do a little debrief or something. And I text him and I'm like, where'd you go, dude? You okay? And he replies and he said, no, I'm not okay. And I called him. And by this time, it's just me and one other guy left at this meeting space that we meet at. And I call him, he's crying and is, kind of distraught, and is like, I was on my way home to kill myself. I was going to go kill myself after the meeting. And as I was driving home, I came across these two raccoons, and they both been hit by a car, and they're like messed up. I threw them in my truck, and what should I do? I was like, come back here and we'll deal with it together. And so he heads back, and I call a buddy who's a hunter. I'm like, dude, but like, I don't know much about, like, what do you do? Call the SPCA? Like these things have been hit by a car. They're still alive, but they're not dead, like, so he's like, tells me about how to like assess the damage and try to figure out what's going on with them, and tries to find a number that I can call. And buddy arrives, and we leave the raccoons in his truck, and he comes inside, and we sit down and talk to him for a bit about what was going on. And, basically he was like, this is just eating me up. My pain was eating me up here. And like, I was hiding it from you guys. And he said, truthfully, this is the second time this has happened to me. There's another time where I was going to go kill myself, and an animal in distress crossed my path.
Wow.
And that became my reason to live that day. And so we sit with him, we cry with him, we hold him for a bit, and just like, honestly, the emotions were like kind of tense. It wasn't like we had this beautiful healing moment, because those damn raccoons were outside in his truck. Mm-hmm. So it was just like, there was definitely some jittery, like stressed, bad juju, mm-hmm. in the space, but we were holding it together, So we're like, okay, well, here we are. Let's go out and deal with these raccoons. And I wonder how, like, I'm not going to get too graphic, but like, hope the city of Vancouver doesn't come after me. So we go out, and the first raccoon's dead already in the back of his truck. It just passed away. And the second one, we're like, okay, well, let's figure out how, like, okay or not okay he is. So we open up the back of his truck, and the thing, like, kind of growls at us, pushes itself out of the truck and falls out. And we realized pretty quickly that his front legs are working, his back legs are not working. His back's broken. And he's just kind of like totally feral, flipping out, in lots of pain. And, so he's crawling around on the street, and we're like trying to keep him from going somewhere where we won't be able to, like, kind of finish him if we need to, And the one guy goes upstairs to get a shovel, and this thing keeps trying to crawl under a dumpster thing, and I'm grabbing it by the tail and pulling it out so that it doesn't go in there and die slowly. Yeah. That was my big fear. It's pouring rain on us, and we're like, how is this happening right now? And eventually we grabbed a large object together, the two of us, and we just
put him out of his misery.
Put this thing out of its misery.
Yeah.
And that wasn't easy either. We had to hit him multiple times. And yeah, finally we finish that and just grab each other and cry for a few minutes out there in the rain. And it's like, we're crying for the raccoon. We're crying for my friend and his pain. And just and just in awe of life and the twists and turns that occur, and
the circumstances and the signs of the animals crossing the path of his life at those moments.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And yeah, that was just a powerful moment that felt like led by spirit for us, and solidified our connection forever, for sure. And also just took both of our love for the brotherhood and just like next leveled it. Because it seemed as though a life was saved that day, and a life and two lives were taken. So yeah, that honestly, that's the moment that sticks out so much for me. That's just this like huge moment around the brotherhood that I'll never forget, had a huge emotional impact on me.
Powerful. And also a lot to hold as a leader. Like when you're in charge of that group, it's like, that's a potent experience to have. You're like, oh, I'm responsible in some way to see this through, to support this person, to hold space for this.
Yeah. This is a
test.
It's a big task.
Yeah.
For our captains in this brotherhood to be sitting and just be maybe the focal point or the guide for a group of guys who are basically in midlife. And guys do get suicidal in midlife. Guys do go bankrupt. Guys do get divorced. Guys do lose children. And guys do struggle with their mental health and addiction and all the problems we can have. That happens in our circles. And none of our guys are therapists, But there's a guiding principle here that men somehow know how to hold other men in their pain. Men, they know how to be men and they can hold each other, like we are the best at holding each other, actually. And there's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of like, oh man, I don't want to do the wrong thing here. And our captains aren't perfect, and we all make mistakes. But overall, on a whole, that's what we're trusting in here. We're trusting that men and the squad, not just the captain, but the whole squad, know how to hold each other and will hold each other as best they can, and much better than a guy without a men's group.
Yeah. I mean, there's such a deep level of compassion, empathy, care, having a man's back that was displayed in that moment, for sure. And like, that's huge.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a test for you as a captain. I'm curious to pivot. It's like, how are you being tested now in your life? What do you feel is like the most challenging thing that's staring at you that you're working on?
It's like I'm like staring up into this light square thing that we've got in here that has 100 different little sections on it, and I kind of feel like it's funny because I'm like, I feel like there's 100 things that are stressing me out in one way or another all the time.
Yeah.
Or that are challenging me. Because I'm a dad. I have a 3-year-old. We've got land that we live on and we take care of. We've got people who live with us, and they live in different buildings, and like there's the whole land and the home, my home, how to take care of my home, how to make sure my family's comfortable, and like where we live, how to make sure we have enough firewood for winter, or like the pipes don't freeze, all this stuff, There's my business, there's my friendships, there's my body and my health. There's Arka Brotherhood, which is aside from my business, it's like very much a labor of love. So the clearest answer that I have for your question is that what stresses me out the most lately is knowing where to put my energy and attention at any given moment or on any given day. And I think I'm getting pretty good at balancing all the things, or like focusing strongly on one thing at particular times, but it's definitely challenging. It's challenging, like, money, to throw money in there and like managing that, and, what to spend, what not to spend, what to save, and like when to like go for it and when to like not. It's, as a 41-year-old with all of those moving pieces in my life, and the part of me like wanting to know that there's like a right thing to do in any given moment, like best decision you can make, and not knowing what that is. Like there's always a level of ambiguity around that. Like you just got to kind of do your best, Yeah,
it sounds like the test is your capacity. Like,
yeah,
your capacity to be doing all the things you're doing, but also how to prioritize, how to choose, how to say no. Sounds like it's it.
Yeah. And like presence with my daughter, like I want to be 100% ultimately present with her, listening, not multitasking on my phone, not thinking about my crazy list of things I have to do, not worrying about something that's happening in Arka or something that's happening in my business, or not worrying about money or my, did I mention relationship, marriage, managing that,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I want to be wholly present with her and my wife as I am with you right now, and that is a challenge. That is a challenge.
So how or I guess not how, like, do you have, I'm sure there's a lot of men listening that are kind of laughing, that have similarly full lives.
Yeah. Guys can
different demands.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for how you're able to juggle and focus and prioritize and not get overwhelmed and have high capacity without going crazy?
I almost want to write down a list and go through it with you, but there's a few things that have really helped me. One is like on the mental side of things is to take radical ownership of my life, where I'm putting my energy, what is in my life. And if there's something in my life that I don't like deal with that. And if I'm not going to deal with that, figure out how to like really own it. But don't complain internally about my responsibilities or like what's on my plate or how I'm hard done by, because I asked for this life.
You chose it all.
I chose this life. Like 8 to 10 years ago, I was dreaming of being in a position that I'm in right now, where there's so much abundance. I'm in a happy relationship. I've got an amazing family. Like we have land to take care of. Like we have fires all the time. Like I've got brotherhood. There's like, I can list 1,000 things that I'm grateful for. I asked for this life. And so when my kid is screaming at me in the back seat and I'm driving and my wife is pissed off because I said the wrong thing or I didn't hear her properly and we forgot the thing back at the grocery store, just not letting this story of like, these responsibilities are a burden, I don't want it, like this sort of rejection of reality, not letting that take hold and just really like owning like, hey, this is what you asked for. You asked for it. Like sometimes I do psychedelics or like ayahuasca, and every once in a while you drink ayahuasca and it's not like angels and rainbows. It's like the
demons in hell.
Dude, it's the darkest, most awful, putrid shit you've ever felt or experienced. And you can't get out of that. You can't just like drink something else and it cancels your ayahuasca.
You're in it.
You gotta, the only way to deal with that is to be like, I must have asked for this. And this is what I get when I drink ayahuasca. Like you get what you ask for. And so what is here for me? What lesson is here for me? So that's one of it, is one of the pieces is just like the mental game of like radical ownership and allowing things to be hard. Allow it to be hard. Hard things, amazing. The most amazing things in life are not that easy to acquire or deal with or keep.
Yeah.
Right. A couple other pieces, time management wise. Yeah. I would say I'm not the best at any of that, but something that's been really helpful for me in the last few years is just like shutting off my phone when I'm with certain people or in certain places and resisting the urge to take it out and show people photos or videos or talk about something on my phone.
Because it quickly becomes something else. Like
you get distracted, and then you're all first person to like watch this when you have dinner with people. It's like there's no phones around. Then if one person pulls their phone out,
everyone's got it out.
Within 2 minutes, everybody's on their phone and the room's gone quiet. They really do have this way of like stealing your attention, your energy away from each other. So learning to do that and just have some boundaries around technology in our house and in my relationship and with myself has been super useful. Another piece that helps me, like what I would say is like hold a big life, is my own somatic regulation and self-care work. Like taking time to take care of me, whether that's like exercising regularly, having a sauna every once in a while, having a bath when I need to like really gear down, relax, or going to somatic therapy. Continuing to do the work to expand my capacity to hold stress. Because I think when you are cleaning stress out of your system, I kind of see it as this thing that kind of comes in and you've got to either like clean it out properly or you're going to like lock it up and then it's going to pop out again later. Like there's ways that you can take stress into your system and then you just stack it on top of the last stress and it just goes more and more and more. And it's a good way to do that is like drinking away your stress because it doesn't get rid of it. It just anesthetizes you for a little while and then it comes back.
Saves it for another time.
Yeah, like using, especially in an addictive way where you're running from your stress, you just pile it on top of itself and you end up with an even bigger pile than you did yesterday. So learning to like process properly myself and also with other people. And yeah, recently the last couple of years, I've done a few somatic therapy sessions, like maybe a dozen. And that's been really good too. Just like,
for people who have never done somatic therapy, how would you describe the experience?
It's therapy that isn't like so talky. It's more about like going in and feeling your nervous system. Your nervous system was built before you could talk. It was built in utero. Your nerves, your central nervous system, your fight or flight response, all that stuff was like built when you're in utero. And it was connected to your mom's nervous system. So for better or worse, whatever's going on in her nervous system was like also going on in yours. And then you're born and your nervous system breaks off from hers slowly, I would say, because a lot of kids are breastfeeding and touching their mom a lot in the beginning. And so there is trauma, there's stress, there's maladaptive, like
there's a lifetime of responses in your body held up.
Yeah. And that stuff, like you can go talk about it, but the nervous system is a layer deeper than your mind. And so I recommend somatic therapy to a lot of people because I watched it change my wife's life and how she shows up. I watched it change guys in my squad who went. And, when I was having some issues in terms of how I was showing up in a relationship a couple of years ago, my wife asked me to go. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And it's very subtle work, but when you work with someone you trust and you're open to it, they can go help you go into your nervous system and go to those scary places, go to those places that actually are the source of some pain that causes your like maladaptive behaviors, the rough defensive ways that I show up sometimes with my partner is it's a defense for my nervous system, part of me that wants to feel safe. So learning to bring safety in through some of these techniques that they show you in somatic therapy has been really useful. Like the more inner work, I think the more inner work a guy does, the more he's able to level up in his life and live a bigger and bigger life and hold more and more. There's a balance there. Like don't chase, like there's guys that just chase the workshops. They're just like workshop every month. It's just like always something new.
Yeah.
And that can be a bypassing of its own where you're not actually like integrating that, whatever work that is at a deep level.
I mean, the best workshop you can do is live your life fully.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough challenges out there.
Yeah. And presently, like
where you can actually apply the learnings too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to slow down enough to like see how you're showing up in an authentic, normal moment to a stressor and then be able to like work with that. You don't have to go to Tony Robbins all the time to like have a breakthrough. Sometimes a breakthrough happens in a very mundane, normal part of life.
Well, there's a lot of good things there. A lot of good advice for being able to have a high capacity. So we're doing this thing. We're recording a podcast. Yeah. And we're both excited about to see where this goes.
Yeah.
And so I think my last question for you is, what about making this podcast excites you? What are you most excited for in doing it?
Yeah, I'm excited to hear other men's stories. Like I really enjoyed just digging in with you and hearing more about what makes you tick and what matters to you. And I'm excited to do some interviews with other captains in our brotherhood. Like there's a lot of guys who I really trust deeply and like I really have their backs, but knowing that, I'm going to get to go deeper with them in these interviews, and B, we get to share some of this just high quality conversation that we get to have.
Yeah.
We have these, we go to these depths all the time together, you know, in squad and in our relationships. Like I'm so grateful for the men that are in my life today. Like the brotherhood I have is just like, it's so healing for that part of me that grew up in kind of broken brotherhood. But just being able to share that with the world is so exciting to me because I believe every man needs a men's group. I believe I want every man to have what I have.
Yeah.
You know, I want every man to have access to the caliber of men that are in my life. And I know that having this show and having guys tell their stories and relate to each other and ask good questions and listen to each other and also just share their breakthroughs, share their stoke for this work is going to have an impact. It's going to ripple out. And that's my mission, you know? I don't know if we've ever needed men to level up more than we do right now. I have big questions about humanity's future right now, in the next 10 years. And that can be scary, you know, like existential stuff, but like, what can you control? What is within your power, you know? And this work is my domain. It's within my domain. And, if I can amplify it, if we can amplify it together, that's the move.
Yeah. I'm so excited to share men's stories that I feel like I'm lucky enough to sit in, like on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
I myself, or watching other men in my group, hear something that another guy shares. And it could be something small. It could be something mundane, like a small struggle or a small thing they're dealing with. But just hearing another man share about it can be such a cathartic relief.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, wow. Like I totally understand what you're talking about. I've been there, or I've had something similar happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my hope that in having our members and our leaders on in this podcast, that we're able to give a taste of that same feeling to all the men listening, but also all the women listening, so they can kind of get a sense of what goes on. And in particular for the men, that even if they don't join a men's group, they can feel or maybe even hear something on this podcast where they're like, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, I struggle with that. I thought maybe I was the only one. And leading to them doing something about it, or something in their life that propels them to, wanting to make their life better or heal or be happier or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's what I'm excited for. And I'm excited to do it with you.
Question for you, like off the top of your head, what are some of the subjects you're excited to see discussed on this show?
I think less so subjects. I think first and foremost, storytelling. I want men to share their stories unfiltered, honestly. And in particular, like maybe even the taboo or the scary things that maybe wouldn't be shared even with a new friend or someone on the street.
Yeah.
And it's like those kind of icky or even darker parts that exist that a lot of people carry alone. And I hope that people sharing them on this podcast, they don't have to carry them alone anymore. And kind of release shame, kind of release anything along those lines. In terms of subject matter, I mean, men's work broadly is the subject matter. Shadow work, self-development, And of course, like a lot of what men will share have through lines through like commentary on culture today, in particular Western culture. So the struggles that men face, the struggles that we face in modern society, whether it's distraction, capacity, all these things will come out in these conversations naturally. Yeah. And so the subject matter will be the focus of people's lives, really. Yeah, so I'm excited to kind of follow what comes up.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah, like what men are struggling with today, and what's working for us, what's working for the guys in this room. Yeah,
I mean, that's exactly it.
Yeah, because we're lucky enough to have found certain solutions to things.
I'm surrounded by men who are more or less thriving.
Yeah.
Who not every moment to moment, like they have their struggles, but they're supported and they have the tools to navigate life with confidence and get through the hard stuff and build lives full of meaning and purpose. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm excited to do this with you. I'm excited to see where we go with this and how this spills out. Like we're going to put our initial efforts in here in terms of like, yeah, I think we should start with these like 10 episodes or whatever. And then what happened with my show is it sort of took on a life of its own. And I just sort of follow my nose and I listened to it and I listened to the audience and just like what wants to come through, what wants to happen.
Yeah.
And just let it evolve, you know? And I'm excited for that journey too. Like what's going to come of this. So.
Yeah. We'll be listening to how things land and what resonates with people listening.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. That's great.
Thanks, Matt. All right. You ready? 1, 2, 3, ho!